Greetings, everyone. My name is Russ Hatfield, and behind my shoulder is my higher dimensional twin soul, a member of Ashtar Command on Hades base, Karra. This channeling session for June is from the members of Ashtar Command speaking from a base on Mars. The channeler for this session is, as always, Mark Crocker, and this particular session was recorded on September 15th of 1998. Here now is a quick summary of the topics covered. There is one thing that distinguishes the Hades-based news from other sites with channelings from Ashtar Command: the lack of long, flowery dialogue from just a single speaker. Instead, multiple speakers cover a variety of topics in a language familiar to anyone hearing it. That fact is brought home by Karra on side 1 of June's channeling session, as she explains how every channeling session the Command holds with groups down here are tailored just for the needs of each particular group. We try to be more interactive to bring out a wide selection of topics to cover depending on world events. The members of the base planning the channeling would have already had a briefing on what to discuss based on the unique skill sets of the speakers before commencing with the channeling. Before that, on side 1, Omal covers world events and politics, being as Tia is on his forced sabbatical from work. As seems to be always the case, news of the present meets channeling of the 90s. Karra finishes up with a side discussing UFO conspiracy being forced on the world when suddenly we see the openness to the subject in the headlines we could not foresee back then. Naturally, it has to be this randomly selected tape being posted on the month the United States Congress gets a report on what the Pentagon knows about the craft we discuss quite often in the archives. Then, it is on to side 2, where she reminds us that everyone needs someone else, and that the opposite can lead to severe problems should the person turn inward, totally shutting out the society around them. Kiri takes over the subject from her sister and approaches it from a coercive point of view. Basically, a person has to coerce themselves out of thinking negatively about their self-image. After Kiri finishes, Tia gets herself into trouble almost at once by talking about work when she had been told not to for her own health. That gets her a much-needed suspension, and it's us a chance to look at a secret report about President Clinton that 30 years later is old news. The reason these sessions get posted so much longer after the events have happened is due to carefully planned timing, no doubt, but also that much of what we post would have brought too much attention on us too soon back then. For full transcripts and behind-the-scene notes, please visit this direct link at hadesbasenews.com/truth.html for a full transcript of what we've just discussed and what's to be discussed on the tape. Our homepage is at hadesbasenews.com, and we hope you enjoy this channeling session, and we hope that it helps in learning how the other dimensions live. Now we present Regarding Truth Seekers and Self-Lovers.
Okay, greetings everybody on this night of September 15th, 1898.
Very close. And what was last week's session on anyway? Do you remember?
What was it on?
You couldn't talk much.
No, I didn't. I wasn't paying much attention. Let me see, what was it on? I haven't even seen the reviews.
Well, you would put Tia can't talk.
But I could talk. I do talk. Okay. Anybody want to know anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got a request from someone who needs to get the each of the scenarios, the detailed thing we did about the scenarios that one time.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Do you have a somewhere in the logs or something that shows which date that was on so I can track down the tape?
Okay, that would be last year, no, year before, and it would be about September time. I believe Johnny was here.
Yeah, you're right.
So it would be about September time.
September of last year. 2 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
2 years ago, September.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's about right.
All right.
Any more questions?
In general, well, what's going on?
Well, what do you need to know?
Well, let's see. We didn't get you last week, so I thought we might get a nice recap of world events since the last time we talked about world events.
I can't. I'm still on vacation.
You're still on vacation?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's right. A week and a half, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, never mind. Yeah, we'll bring on the next person then.
NTPs. Greetings and felicitations. Greetings, everybody.
Greetings, Omal.
Good evening, Omal.
Okay, let us get down to business. Saying first we'll cover miscreant behavior. Those who shall remain nameless were told to stay away from their location of work and disobeyed. I do not know if it is a punishment or enjoyment. Okay, now down to more serious matters. Okay, as our political analyst is unable to do her job at the moment, I will cover some key matters. First of all, let us look at the Lewinsky affair. Can anybody tell me how much has been spent on this matter? Just this investigation of Monica Lewinsky and the president of your country.
I'd say below 10 million.
Any other estimates?
I didn't really think about it. Is it important? Because I know they're making a lot of money on it too.
They're not making any money on it.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody must be getting paid for it.
Oh,
Papers.
they are getting paid for it.
Wow.
But whether or not you say it is making money is a point of view. Just over $4 million, not the mentioned 40 million, which has been banded around. That is the whole entire investigation of the president.
Yeah, I was right.
You were kind of right.
Right.
Okay, now let us get back to the investigation of the president in this current investigation of the Monica Lewinsky affair. Having read the report from top to bottom, inside, outside, and the rebuttals, it is my considered opinion that there are serious legal ramifications that have been broken, serious legal matters that have been compromised. I will not go into these in detail, due to the fact that it is your planetary affair. It is something that your planet has to deal with. But the preoccupation with this matter and the fact that the populace is so heavily involved in this matter and how the world perceives your country because of these matters is something that is of interest. In my research that I have been supplied with, this is the first time that a president has outright lied to the public. The last president that was threatened with impeachment lied, but not totally. He omitted certain key facts and was very careful not to lie or appear to lie. The nearest that he came was actually stating that he was unaware at the time of the break-ins, which is correct. He was aware after the fact, which is where the problem came. So, a bending of the truth got a president threatened with impeachment and he was forced to resign. What of an outright lie?
A lot of people don't think that they're kind of like moving to the side where people just want to get on with it and they don't really think it's grounds for impeachment. But I certainly do think it's grounds for impeachment.
Why do you think it is grounds for impeachment?
Well, for the immoral acts, for one thing, and then the fact that he lied, and just the way that the public is making such a big deal about it. I just don't think that we can let our president get away with that for the hope of the presidents of the future, just so they know that they cannot get away with such a thing.
That is correct to a point.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, he should be impeached. No, he should not be impeached. The reason why I give both yes and no is the fact that if he is impeached and the process goes ahead and before January the 14th he is impeached, then the vice president will say about the rest of his term, or the current president's term, plus 2 more terms are possible. If he is impeached after January, then the new president will serve the remaining 2 years, plus the possibility of a grand total of 8 more years, which gives a total of 10. So, in this problem, is something that needs to be addressed. If the president is impeached and the government can now act and proceed with its normal function, whoever is in power will not look as good.
Al Gore, for instance?
For instance, yes. Okay, let us continue. Moving away from the investigation to another investigation. Campaign finance irregularities. It is becoming more evident that illegal contributions were given with full knowledge to a political campaign for the re-election of the president and the vice president. Both parties were aware of these. One individual made telephone calls from an illegal spot to drum up more money. That is another investigation that is going on. In the history of your presidency, there has never been a president that has been so investigated, so minutely investigated, and yet more irregularities in his presidency are becoming clear every day. Now let us move away from the political woes of your country to something much more important. The financial and economic goings on a worldwide level has been covered many times in the past. Russia is a model to go from. It is an emerging capitalistic system. For how much longer? We do not know. What is going to happen in Russia? Well, at present, there is a new president that has been put into office by Boris Yeltsin. He has been agreed upon by the communist majority in the lower house in Russia. But the problem with this gentleman is that he has very little understanding of economics. He has to elect a new finance minister that has clear knowledge of what is going on. However, there will be tampering by the current person of Boris Yeltsin. He will tamper with what is going on. Again, miraculously, he has survived yet another threat to his power. With winter coming and prices increasing, there is a lot of problems. Okay, that is all I am going to cover at this time on the political economic woes of the world. Let us start answering questions.
Okay. One of the things that I've noticed is that many of the countries who have similar problems to Russia and the United States are attempting to fix them in all the wrong ways. for example, Japan, where they should be tough on their failing banks and savings institutions, are not. They're trying to save them by merging them with other strong financial ones in the hopes that both will recover instead of shutting one down.
Mm-hmm.
Will that make a big difference in their own economic recovery?
There are two distinct possible outcomes that can come from this. One is that the strong bank will be made weaker, but will survive and therefore prop up and help the failing bank, or the failing bank will drag down the healthy bank, and economic depression, which is very, very possible, may occur. In fact, I would say from the reports that Japan is in a recession. How that works is a domino effect worldwide.
So one of the keys to look for right now is how does Japan weather this crisis?
Correct. It is something that bears watching. I believe Kiri is fond of saying, get your information sources from many different places.
Mm-hmm.
She is quite correct. Just one gives you a narrow focus. From one country gives you an even narrower focus on that country's bias.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of research on the web about it right now. So I'm finding from a lot of different sources on the web, different situations going on.
The key is to look for certain threads that run throughout them, certain similarities in the reports. Those are more than likely facts, or facts that wish to be released by the governments of the countries.
Okay. Now, 20 years from now, or let's make it 50 years from now,
Mm-hmm.
when the world looks back on this time period, and everything is done and it's all cleared up, are they going to be able to take a look at what's taken place to this point, let's say right tonight, and say, well, yeah, it's pretty clear where all this happened and what could have been stopped and done, but never was.
Mm-hmm. Yes, there is that possibility, and more than likely they will do so. However, whether or not they learn, and when the situations that are similar arise again, they act, is something that is open to debate. After all, in 1929, there was a stock market crash. Did they learn from that? Did they learn from the depression that followed? Did they learn enough not to make those mistakes?
So this is just a case where we're wearing blinders, or the financial institutions, let's say, are wearing blinders in the hopes that everything makes a big turnaround.
Your words, not mine.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's good.
I just listen.
Okay. Now, Russia, with its new president, the president himself is not a man of mystery at all. This is a man who has a lot of things as far as agendas that have already been laid out. And one of the reasons the lower house of the Duma agreed upon, the communists anyway, is because of the fact that he has no surprises up his sleeve.
Correct. He is easy to control, easy to manipulate. He is also very clever at compromising and debating.
Right. So it looks like how I'm reading this is that he's a pawn, but thinks that he's a power player.
He is a power player.
Oh, yes.
He is, but he is also a pawn.
Okay.
He has the option to stand up and be strong. He also has the option of doing as his masters tell him to, or those that have the majority tell him to do so.
Okay. So, in the event that there is a communist resurgence, and the people are basically fed up with the reform process that's taken place, is a scenario we're looking at here maybe a merging of both capitalism and communism, or is it just one cannot work with the other?
Actually, that is an interesting concept that we have looked at. Yes, it can work together. Whether or not it is done that way remains to be seen. Having governmental control over major industries is useful, but allowing free enterprise to reign is also useful. Blending the two together may work extremely well. However, it must be remembered that human nature can play a very big part in it. It's quite correct, Skip.
They won't allow it.
I don't know. I cannot say.
Because it'll knock too many people out of power positions.
Interesting. Okay.
No, the people in power now won't allow it. It'll take too much power away from free enterprise.
What makes you say that?
Because free enterprise has got to be done underneath the sheets, more or less, to have power, where communism doesn't.
Elaborate, please.
Well, the way I see it, communists, they say what's going to be done. In other words, they've got the power to do it. If they have to re-gear their thinking and to maintain a power image or a power control by going underneath the free enterprise like it's done in this country, the two won't match. They won't blend together. There's no way that they can do it that way.
You are correct with the way that the setup is, but I believe it's called nationalizing certain key industries, which was done in the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia at the end of the Second World War. It enabled these industries to modernize, concentrate, and be controlled by the government, which in essence is a communist setup. But yet with the private sector being able to buy at a cheaper price from these suppliers, it aided and stimulated the economy. In the power structure, the way that it worked in the United Kingdom was that it gave key positions in the government. He who controlled the mining controlled the electrical power. He who controlled the steel industry controlled the shipyards, the manufacturing of steel for construction, and a few other things.
Now, what about the banking situations? Aren't those institutions that, if they're nationalized, would actually be a detriment to the recovery of Russia?
No, because it would be controlled from a central point, and the policies that should be enacted would hopefully shepherd it into a pathway that would be better for all concerned.
So you're looking at major industrial corporations, banks, and other financial institutions being nationalized, but regular retailers and stuff still being on a free enterprise system?
That would be the appropriate way to do it.
That's interesting. I don't think anybody's ever tried that before. Well,
That's why I say they've never tried it before. I don't think they'll let it work.
I think Skip is correct. If it was left to operate on its own, with certain plans laid out, which I will not go into for the obvious reason, it would work,
Yes, it would, but
and extremely well and effective.
not with the people that they've got in power now. That's where you're running into the tight.
Yes,
The people that's in the power now.
it would have to be set up in such a way that there would be no flexibility. It would have to be very rigid. If, for example, the banks are nationalized and the lending rate is 7%, it cannot go up or down. It must stay the same and constant.
that wouldn't happen.
Yeah, to give it some stability. Because if you allow it to go up and down, you have no stability.
So you see the problem.
And the people in power ain't going to do that.
whether it is 20 or 30 years that you give a loan for at 7%, or 60 or 70 years at 7%, it has to stay the same.
There's no flexibility. You can't have any flexibility.
None at all.
Omar's right.
But the benefits are tremendous.
Be fantastic if they'd allow it.
Correct. But they may keep it non-flexible for 10 years, and at the end of 10 years, they relax. That is a wrong move.
Well, it's a question of the fact that, the banks keep it at 7%, but the ruble devalues itself, or inflation goes skyrocketing. All of a sudden, the 7% isn't worth anything, and they are forced to raise it to 10 or 15% to make up the money that they're loaning out.
But they mustn't, for the simple reason that if you're loaning out at a constant rate, it does not fluctuate, and the ruble, does fluctuate, then they have a moment where they are not able to loan as much, but yet they still have that steady income coming in. The people are not put in an awkward position.
I see. Okay, well, this definitely bears watching. And if you're true with if you're correct in these assumptions that Russia is a model, then basically what we're looking at there
is our own future.
Correct.
It's our own future.
And an avoidable future.
What about our interest rates? They fluctuate.
You are a much more robust economy. You produce more on a worldwide scale. You are more self-sufficient.
And we're more educated in that fluctuation than Russia is.
Correct.
We don't have the power figures controlling national or nationalizing industry and stuff like that the way that they have over there.
But there it is needed.
It's needed there, and we don't need it here. We've got enough mafia. We don't need the rest of it.
No. And unfortunately, Skip is quite correct. There are mafia-type environments created by that. So it has to be set up with individuals that are uncorruptible.
That's it exactly. And
Do you know anybody that is uncorruptible?
No, everybody's got a price.
Correct.
And it's sad to say that everybody does have a price. And even in our country, it's the same thing.
Okay, next question.
No, I'm talked out, Homer.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Did I do that?
Hi, baby.
Hello.
Hey,
Hi, Tia.
okay, questions.
Well, if we ask anything that we want to ask, you'll be off for another week and a half.
I'll be off for the rest of the week, but
You'll be back next week.
I can't say anything.
They got your tongue tied, darling.
That's what I mean.
Well, I can talk about astral travel and things that are totally unrelated to work.
Totally unrelated to work.
Mm-hmm.
So, is it a punishment or a reward?
A little bit of both. Being a nosy parker that I am, I like to know what's going on, so that's frustrating.
Yeah.
But having the opportunity to spend time around the apartment and go to the park and go to the gardens and go to the corner bar and go down to Lake Dolphin, go climbing in the hills. It's all fun.
Well, that's good.
Everything but the bar sounded like fun.
And the bar's fun.
It is. All right. Well, that's nothing on anything else. I'll think of some astral travel though for the next time you come in.
Okay. Okay, let's continue for a moment. Kara's busy. She's talking.
Oh, fair enough. Well, I don't have to cover this up in astral travel now anyway.
Okay.
All right. On astral travel, when prepping up to go out,
Mm-hmm.
toughest part is being able to cut out any extraneous senses.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we've talked about how you can go into further shields of
Mhm.
unawareness,
Mm-hmm.
and each one is like a succeeding blanket.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, you fall asleep.
No, I've never done that.
I did.
Yes. I don't mean to disagree with you, but that's happened to me.
Okay. And how not to fall asleep, huh?
Yeah. Right.
I guess so. Yeah, that'd be a good shot.
How about listening to your own heartbeat?
I can't hear my own heartbeat. I've tried many times.
Well, can you feel it?
Unless I put my hand on my pulse.
You can't feel your own heartbeat?
Mm-mm.
I can.
Totally unaware of it.
I can, but it's a vein on the inside of my lip.
You can hear Mark's heartbeat right now.
I can hear all of your heartbeats, but I have acute hearing. If you ask Mark, ask him if he can hear his own heartbeat.
Okay. So if you can hear your heartbeat, let's say, what's another idea?
Focus on an event in your day. Just one event. Freeze it and look at the picture. Concentrate on the picture.
Would they get you started on the chain of thoughts on that?
No. You tell your train of thoughts, put them on hold. Think of that one picture. It's so simple. Listen to yourself breathe. You can hear yourself breathe, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That puts me to sleep, too.
Very relaxing.
I can see the disgust going over that young lady's face.
It's not disgust. It's disbelief.
I'm not trying to be hard, darling.
You are.
Stating facts how they come about when I'm working on this stuff.
Friend, yeah. Okay. All right. Oh.
So I'd like to acquire that gift again. I used to do it, but I thought there was something wrong with me.
Hello.
Hey, sweetheart.
Hi.
Hey. Okay. Now let me see ambassadorial duties as I can wear.
Excuse me. That's true. And you do have some ambassadorial stuff coming up.
Mm-hmm. Okay, next week we have a visitation from Monka, Ashtar Athena, and Daniel.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm. And they will go on immediately first. We will skip over the formalities of introductions, and we will proceed directly to their dissertations, and with Monka answering questions and Daniel answering questions. Ashtar Athena, it is still in discussion whether or not she will answer questions. Because of their busy schedule, we will have to be as quick as we can and start at 9:30 on the dot, your time. Not our time, your time.
Okay.
That is important. Preferably earlier, no later. Punctuality.
Okay.
Very, very important for this meeting. Okay. Afterwards, you don't have to worry about the luncheon afterwards or after dinner afterwards. Unless you want to come up.
Okay.
It would be nice.
I shall do my best.
Okay.
Just remind me then.
Okay, let's just answer questions.
Okay. Seems to be that one of the things I'm getting questioned on in my webpage on people asking me stuff is about the future and how the fact that Ashtar and Sananda in their channelings talk about the ascension
Mm-hmm.
and how it's progressing and getting ready to go on and everything.
Hmm.
And how we don't ever talk about ascension, we merely talk about the transition.
Hmm.
Two of the same things, correct?
Correct. Just different wording.
Okay. And I had to mention that we will have to go through some hard times before we go to that point, because we have to get mentally and psychically aware for that event.
That's correct. And I think Ashtar Athena is the person that is much better at wearing things in a way that everybody expects. You see, with each group that Ashtar Command channels to, they tailor it for the audience. It is the same thing, but said in different formats in different ways. So it is important for people to understand that for your group you are aware and you're intelligent enough to understand the difference between the next level and ascension.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing.
Well, it seems to me that we seem to get the harder edge of the story. I mean, you don't get all the flowery phrases and things like that. It's more like a newscast almost sometimes.
Yes, it is almost like a newscast sometimes. Hence the reason for the webpage.
Huh.
It's the Hades-based news.
True.
It is a newscast. It's not being flowery and long-winded. I can do that very well. I don't think Tia could do it, and I definitely know my little sister cannot do it.
Oh,
We know Omal can do it. We know Coercion can do it. We know everybody else can do it. Even Daniel does it. But it's not what you guys want. It's not what you guys expect. You want the truth. You want it as it is in easy, digestible, understandable patterns. Not in such a way that you have to read it carefully and see that there is a lot said, but in actual fact very little said.
Right.
Yeah.
It's boring as all heck.
Oh, yes.
Put you to sleep.
And it's boring for us too. But if the audience expects it, then that's what we give them.
That's true.
Be careful what you wish for.
You just may get it.
Darlin, I got a question,
Mhm.
please. Isn't this ascension or transition already in the making?
Yeah. You can't go back.
That's what
Why go back?
the reason why I considered this is because more and more people are becoming aware of other than just themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a self-centered population anymore.
No, it's not. It is more aware, but unfortunately there is a large majority that is very self-centered, very ignorant, and does not know what's going on. And they don't want to know what's going on. The opportunities are offered, but they don't listen.
You know, there's also some governments that want to keep us that way too.
Oh, yes, most certainly. And unfortunately, the ignorance and lack of understanding, and in some cases, lack of foresight, lack of planning, is a real hindrance. But those people do not want to change. They don't know how to change, and they don't want to learn how to change.
I run across a situation the other day that the governments don't want to acknowledge the unidentified flying saucers for the simple reason that people would stop becoming citizens of that country. They would become Earth people.
And also the fact that the biggest lie would be exposed. Would you believe a government after it was exposed to lie on a big, big scale?
They've
Not
been
just
lying
little
for
things.
years.
Oh, you know what I mean.
They won't admit it.
No, they won't admit it.
That's the problem.
Well, that's actually not lying. They're not saying one way or the other.
In other words, we'll ignore it and it'll go away.
Unfortunately, it doesn't in this case.
I know. But I think that's their biggest scare.
Mm-hmm.
That they don't want to lose their citizens to become Earthlings.
You're quite correct, I think.
Is there a problem with becoming an Earthling?
Yes, ma'am.
What?
Because you're not honoring the country that you live in.
Uh-huh.
You're not.
What about honoring the land?
Honey, this is what we're talking about. You become an earthling. You don't become a United States citizen or an Indian or a Japanese or anything else. You're an earth person.
Uh-huh. I would like that.
A lot of people would like that, but a lot of people don't want that because they'll lose their citizens.
Right. They would be lose their control.
There you go. You got it.
And
You
it
got
would also lose something far more important. Far more important. Ethnic identity.
We wouldn't be ethnic anymore.
Ethnic identity is very important. I was born in the Highlands. I'm a Syrian first, but I know that I am a Highlander second. Even though I am a Syrian, and I love my planet, I love my home more. I will protect my home more. Why protect somewhere that I have no affinity, that my body was not designed to live in? I will protect my planet, but I will protect my home first because that's where I was born, that's where I have the greatest affinity for, and that's where my body's designed for. And if everybody on a planet-wide scale protects their home and protects their ethnic area, then they protect the whole entire planet.
I agree. If everybody did their part.
But they ain't going to.
If everybody.
Okay. Now, where were we? The thing is that it takes, having children, it takes two people. It's not one person.
Uh-huh.
And it's the same with everything else. It takes two people or more to take care of something. But forcing one's will on somebody or anybody is wrong. Except for in the case of children, where you are teaching them by forcing your will on them.
Yeah.
When you say to a child, do not play with fire, it's not because it's wrong. It's because you know that it burns. And it saves them, hopefully, from learning the lesson of how much it hurts. When you say that something should be done, that is your point of view. So it is important to be aware of other people, not to be so centered on yourself that only yourself matters. It's important to remember that it takes two to create. It takes two to look after. It's very important to remember that. Nobody is an island, yet individuality is very important. If you are so turned in on yourself, that leaves open for serious mental health issues. Because when you're sick, there's nobody to take care of you if you are so turned in on yourself. And sometimes when you're sick and you're turned in on yourself, you don't notice it. You don't care about it because nobody else cares about you because you've alienated them. So, having the outlook of just one person is wrong. Next questions. Any more questions?
Mostly with dealing with survival and being able to just make a buck.
Mm-hmm.
How do you maintain that community spirit, yet that individualism? There's a fine balance point there that's really tough to maintain.
I wouldn't say so. We have a competitive nature as Syrians, and doing better than your neighbour is part of it. But also recognizing when your neighbour needs help. So everything's going great. You can do better than your neighbour by struggling harder, by improving yourself.
Okay, so it's just a question of improving yourself, but at the same time, I guess, by example, improving your neighbor.
Mm-hmm. Because in a competitive nature, if you improve yourself, your neighbour wants to improve.
Right.
and so on.
Makes sense.
Now, I had a discussion a few moments ago with my sister, which brought up the issue of being turned in on oneself. And we had an interesting discussion on that. And it's observations that she's made recently on certain ethics and etiquette. I'll let her handle that.
Okay.
More questions?
I don't think so, bro.
Pretty much, I'm questioned out right now.
No, Russ. That's between you and I, and stays that way. Okay.
I don't know.
We will address that later.
Okay.
And that is your choice.
Of course.
And again, that's between you and I. Okay.
All right, sweetheart.
Bite me.
Love you too, sweetheart.
I love you too. And when are you going to get up to come and see me?
As soon as I can.
Okay.
Came up the other day.
Yes, I know. But how frequently?
I know. Well, we work together all the time.
Yes, I know, but I like to see.
All right.
You know. Frank.
Yeah.
Actually, that's the first time that I've watched those two have a disagreement.
Kiri and Tia? I mean, Kiri and Karra?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't happen often.
No. No. It doesn't. It doesn't. Okay, got any questions?
No.
No, where did Linda go?
Oh, she's fixed it to you.
Okay.
I don't know.
Frank.
Hey, Kiri.
Yo.
Yeah, but
Hi, Kiri.
Hey.
So you and my lovely lady are having a disagreement, huh?
I wouldn't call it a disagreement.
Tia did.
I would say different points of view.
So, what's the disagreement on? Free choice, as I understand it.
Partly.
Well, Karra says you're going to help us out on that.
Yes, I know what she said.
Okay.
Okay. Marshalling my thoughts. Marshall. Okay. Understanding that an individual is important in their work is a healthy outlook to a certain point of view. However, what is unhealthy, and I think I won the issue, is when an individual becomes so turned in on themselves that their coercive capability is so focused inwards that they become corrupted within. When an individual becomes so focused within themselves, and the normal telltale signs are, I want, need, me. Those are the key telltale signs
Of what?
of an individual that has become focused in upon themselves.
I've been going through that.
I, mine, need, want. Those are all focusing in on oneself. It's not healthy. The reason why in a coercive ability that it's not healthy is because within an individual is created a feedback loop. And it's not a negative feedback loop which is used for enlargement. It's not like that lancing drill. although it is lancing and it is a drill. But it loops back in on itself, but it spirals in a totally negative fashion, forcing the person into a negative thought process where the world eventually appears to revolve around them. And in doing so, as I said to my sister, it alienates the outside world to them. Once the alienation starts, it is very, very hard to stop.
Maybe I'm not.
The individual must, at that point, stop it themselves. Outside stimulus is needed to do so, but they have to stop themselves. As in becoming so turned within themselves, the way it works is that they push people that are on the peripheral away, and then gradually those that are closer. And then finally, they stand totally alone. When they get to that point, it is no longer their fault, no longer their mistake. It's no longer their doing. It's everybody else's doing. They did this to me, which increases the loop, increases the spiral down even faster. At that point, the next stage, the coercive ability is now totally focused in on themselves in a totally negative pattern. There is a point for rescue at this point. But if untreated, the next stage happens where they start to talk to themselves, not just internally, but externally. And no longer having just a one-way conversation, it becomes more along the lines of a two-way conversation with the person playing both sides. For example, act naturally. Oh, I will act naturally. I will behave myself whilst I'm out in public. Of course you will behave yourself out in public. You will do as you are expected to do. As opposed to what Mark does, which is hold a conversation with us, which most people only hear one side of. Most of the time he does it in his head, but occasionally when he gets irritated or he's frustrated, you hear him make a comment. Unfortunately, that's a third-dimensional telepathic problem.
What?
Don't know how to communicate on the I mode.
What does that mean?
The I mode is intimate. Not I as in I, but I as in the letter in your alphabet, I. As in standing for intimate, internal, etc. So, the final collapse comes where the person realizes that they shouldn't be going around talking a two-sided conversation or holding complete conversations with themselves. They totally isolate themselves at that point from the external world. And unfortunately, at that point, when they start the two-way dialogue, the complete conversation with themselves, that's it. Best thing to do is put them on medication and keep them out of the way, because there is very little that you can do. Okay, any questions?
Yes, I have one.
Mm-hmm.
For a person to carry on a one-sided conversation with themselves, is that unnatural or whatever?
Depends if it makes sense.
Well, I'm going to give you, for example, on me, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I talk to myself quite frequently when I'm doing work.
You want me to let you on a little secret?
What?
I do too.
Oh, okay.
I do
Then
too.
That's perfectly natural.
Is that natural?
But when you start having a complete
No, no, no.
conversation that is about nothing,
It's just a one-sided conversation.
Do you believe in positive self-talk? Like, I used to be very negative with myself and be very, very cruel.
mm-hmm.
And now I've changed the way I speak to myself in my mind, and I'm more tolerant.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more patient, and I give myself more of a chance. And I know, and I don't seem to give up as much this way, and I don't get frustrated.
Both actually have their place. For example, let us say that you are working on a piece of engineering and you have a laser drill in your hand. And you go and drill a hole clean through your finger.
Oh, I don't know if I'd be as tolerant as that. Of that.
No. That is where you are harsh on yourself. And as I said, it has its place. Being negative to oneself does have its place. For example, waking up and looking in the mirror and going, "Oh, Kiri, you look like death warmed over."
A rough night.
And I go off and I shower and I make myself nice and clean and presentable.
Well,
So what's
life
Tia
is
say in the morning?
staged.
Look what the cat dog did.
I don't know what she says. First thing she says in the morning, I can't repeat. The second thing she says, I don't understand.
Look what the cat did. But to talk to yourself when you're working is
Perfectly natural.
normal and natural. Okay.
I've even been known to have a two-sided conversation when I'm working on a energy converter the other day, for example.
Yeah.
And I'm explaining to myself how to do it.
You're going over the steps. in other
For
words.
example,
Yeah.
by inputting the negative axes and supplying the power to the converter and regulating the converter supplies power to the main operating system. Now, wouldn't that work better if I reverse the polarity on the axis? Maybe, but you see, that's a healthy thought process and exercise that you're going through.
Well, that's good. So I'm not going insane.
Why do you talk to yourself at work sometimes?
Everyone does.
So, okay.
I
I'm
thought
glad
so.
that you asked that question, Skip, because I was almost afraid to.
No, I talk to myself almost continuously when I'm
Now, I do have a question, though, on what you said, though, Kiri.
Down here, voice and stuff.
When you're talking about a going completely coercively to the inner self, now, is that like trying to coerce yourself?
Yes.
Now, where does that go? Because obviously, if you're trying to coerce yourself and it's not working, you're going to be even harsher on yourself.
Which means that it is working.
Oh.
You see, if you don't perceive that it's working, and you coerce yourself harder, and again don't perceive that it's... See, that's part of the drill and the spiral.
Now, what if it is working? What if your coercion on yourself does work?
Then you coerce yourself again into saying that no, it's not working, and you need to coerce yourself harder.
Why?
But it's all on the subconscious.
For example, I tell myself, hey, I need to get this job done. Focus on this particular area of my life. And I do so, and it makes it work.
Yes.
Like building a cyber cafe, things like that.
Now, I'm talking about negative issues.
Oh, like what?
Negative thought patterns.
I.e.
I'm not worth anything.
That's what I used to do to myself. I used to beat myself up.
Yes. Thinking to oneself, put on a little bit of weight. Winter's coming. Oh, well, I will shed that. I will cut
That's
down on my
positive.
caloric intake. I will exercise a little harder.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
You see, the thing is to break those patterns. If you don't break them,
then you keep building them more and more. And
Yeah, and it would just build up more and more guilt and shame.
You can think yourself into fat.
however, the other thing that you have to watch out for is that when you're saying you're fat and looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, I'm fat, and people don't see you as fat, and you diet and you diet and you diet, you go totally the other way. And that, again, is a coercive, negative thing, which leads down the pathway.
Bulimia?
That's, in a sense, letting food rule your life in another direction.
Correct.
I got a philosophy about food. I don't live to eat. I eat to live.
That makes sense. It's fuel.
And it's a positive attitude.
Okay.
Now, I got a lady. You've met my lady.
She's sweet
Judy.
and nice, yeah.
She's a super gal. According to the standards that everybody set out, she's heavy set.
I didn't even
I
notice
could care less.
Uh-huh.
God still didn't make any junk.
No, he didn't.
She's a beautiful person.
Mm-hmm.
I think an awful lot of that lady.
Hmm.
And she's got a lot of negative attitude about herself.
Yeah. Don't be
That's sweet of you to make her feel good about herself.
don't be susceptible to your, what did you call them, Russ?
Magazines.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants to have this slender, muscular figure with no bulges any place. That's baloney. We're not all built the same. We didn't all come out of the same mold.
Mm-hmm.
True.
So what if I'm short?
So you look good short.
Well, for my race, I'm short.
So what?
What if you put high heels on?
Don't need to. I'm happy as I am.
I know.
I'm Kiri, sex goddess.
I'll tell you what, a little story on me, darling, believe it or not.
Uh-huh.
For years, I wore an 1 3/4 heel on my boots.
You did.
Oh, yes. I wore loggers boots or motorcycle boots or cowboy boots.
I'll give you an example of somebody that is happy and contented with what they've got.
Yeah.
I know somebody that has a hair problem. Receding hairline.
Uh-huh.
They're young. They're intelligent. They're smart. The custom is to be concerned about hair loss.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And everybody sells these products for hair loss.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what?
But
He's happy as he is.
Mm-hmm.
He's happy wearing glasses. He's accepting the fact that his hair is, what did he say? Going south for the winter and summer.
For summer, whatever.
He even makes jokes about it. Happiness with one's body is very important.
oh yeah.
I'm happy being 6'1". I'm happy being a sandy brunette. I'm happy. My sister's happy. The fact that I'm just a little bit taller is besides the point. I can look down on her from my high altitude.
Because I always wanted to be 6 foot tall.
Now, from that conversation, as I like to do from time to time, I give demonstrations of coercive ability. How are you feeling, Russ?
Excellent.
Skip? Oh, Skip.
I don't know exactly how to answer that, darling.
How do you feel?
I really don't know.
Okay, Linda.
I feel very positive for the future.
Mm-hmm.
And I really am excited about a new life and having friends again, like close friends like I had when I was in high school.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, the coercive demonstration was the fact that you've all gone from the bickering mood of points of view and everything to positive. Now, the demonstration is partly for you guys. It's also a demonstration for Mark, because I didn't use any of my ability. Be warned, Russ.
About what?
That was all Mark's capability.
Well, it's about time you started bringing out that Maxis kind of thing.
And it's only a fraction. Maxis is waking up.
Oh, good.
Watch how he learns how to use it. It'll be entertaining. I'm going to coach.
Okay. This should be good.
Mm-hmm. I estimate that he will be able to, at maximum, achieve 50% of Maxis's capability.
Well, Smart doesn't want to get regressed anymore.
Because every time you unleash a demon, except for the last one.
What about you, darling?
Me?
You don't need to be.
No.
You got a all your access to your life anyway.
I have full coercive capability.
I don't know. You sure you can't go anymore?
Do you want me to augment his ability with mine?
No, yourself.
Oh,
I mean, you still got a long way to go in your life.
yes, and I'm still pumping iron.
You haven't peaked out yet.
No. No. And I have a very good teacher that makes me use my coercive ability to keep ahead of him.
Oh, that's good.
And at the moment, I'm winning. Okay, talking of which, I need to go and give him some warm milk.
Okay.
He's just informed me that he's suffering from insomnia.
Well, go have fun, dude. Give her a lovely Leonides.
I will.
All right.
He's in his romper suit.
Okay.
Frank.
Okay.
Hi, baby.
Hey. Okay, we're almost done on the tape.
Hey, should I probably be able to talk again?
So that was Mark's coercive ability. Impressive. We even got up into the mid-range on the yellow line, huh?
Did we?
Mm-hmm.
Take your word for it.
Now, Teen's saying that it just got out of the green line. He says with Kiri, it red lines occasionally. With Leonides, it red lines frequently.
Indeed.
That sounds about average, don't it?
Ashtar, it's like there is no scale.
Then they switch off for Ashtar
I don't doubt it.
and Monka and Ashtar Athena.
And
And actually, Sanander, it doesn't even peak when he hops on it. And it is switched on.
really?
I think he shields himself extremely well.
I know with Ashtar, it's like.
Do you feel the same thing when Ashtar comes on? The energy level in the room increases skip.
Oh, dude. Goes the other way.
Oh, you get tired? It's probably draining you and harassing Russ, or using your energy to harass Russ with.
Well, I used to absorb energy, and I don't do that anymore. I used to give Russ a headache.
He gets a headache from me sometimes.
I get a headache from Ashtar, that's for sure. I don't mind that. That's good practice.
You haven't met Ashtar, have you, Linda?
No, I haven't.
I've got my own shields.
Have I met Ashtar?
You haven't met Ashtar yet.
What does Ashtar talk about?
And mostly about world situations, our progress, progress of the world.
And you better not argue or disagree with Ashtar, because he tells you as it is, the way it is.
Yeah.
And Ashtar is a very busy individual that if you start to deviate, ramble, he will say, stick to the question, or he will cut you off and tell you what you are saying and answer it.
Yeah, and just jump ahead of you and just shut you down. Great guy. He's very stern kind of fellow.
You don't mess with Ashtar.
He's a good guy.
There was a challenge session quite a few years ago. And Russ, you want to tell the story?
Which one?
The one with you and Bethany after the test?
Yeah, we basically got pushed around like little puppets.
They were at each other's throats.
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
And then Ashtar was in Mark's body. He laughed. Very rare occurrence.
Yeah, you don't
He
see that too
chuckled.
often.
Why?
Because he goes,
Ashtar doesn't laugh much.
hello, my name's Russ. Hello, my name's Bethany.
Yeah,
I want to have an argument with you, said Russ. Oh yeah, said Bethany.
yeah, Ashtar's a real life of the party.
They were seriously at each other's throats.
Yeah.
And it got almost to the point of name calling. And that was a coercive demonstration.
Yep, That was a red liner there.
We thought it was pretty funny, actually. You guys were saying how good you are with your shielding. Didn't even touch your shielding, did he?
Uh-huh.
You just slid right through your shields, kept them intact, and just...
Yeah, well, he's had a lot of practice.
Mm-hmm.
He gets to work on you guys.
I don't argue with him.
No, I don't argue with him either.
Once a year, I have to issue or give to Ashtar a verbal report, an oral report.
Fun.
Mm-hmm. I've done it twice so far. Got my third one coming up in 3-4 weeks. Not quite sure. Oh. Fudgicles. You know what I just did, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
What'd you do?
Discussed work.
Oh.
It's alright. It's on tape.
I've just been told to take the rest of the week off.
Oh,
Oh, well, if I talked about it, I can carry on talking about it.
Oh, yeah.
you want another week off?
Put another week on.
No, he says that he can't afford me to take more than what I'm taking off because I'm taking next week I work and then I'm off again for a week because we three are going to have a quiet family week up here.
Well, that's like fun.
Mark's got his exams next week and then we're taking the week off and he has a week off from the cadet training.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk about it. What do you want to know? I'm already in hot water.
What do you know about it? You don't know anything.
You stay in hot water.
Mm-hmm. What are they going to do to me? Put me back in the deep freeze?
Well, that'd chill you down a little bit.
What do I know?
Well, you can't know a whole lot. Must have been picking Mark's brain while he's up there.
I was given a little gift last year.
What was that?
Actually, the year before. When I climbed the pyramid, not only was I given extensive inner shielding for my little sanctuary, I was given a coercive lance probe ability.
Oh, well, that's good. Did it come in handy?
Mm-hmm. Guess who I was talking to this morning?
Mark?
No. Went down to the crash with the cubs, dropped them off, and guess who I bumped into in the hallway?
Tall?
Not pilot Toll, my Toll.
Oh, okay.
The guy that's taking my place. We chatted about him and his friend, and we chatted about skiing.
Okay, shields are very good.
Yeah, I lulled him a little bit.
Yeah, I don't doubt that.
But it was easy to insert that probe. I read the report.
Well, do tell.
Okay.
Don't hold it back.
Without a shadow of a doubt,
Real quick, thanks.
William Jefferson Clinton is a sexual predator.
Bill?
Without a shadow of a doubt, Monica Lewinsky is not the first nor the last. Without a shadow of a doubt, if Clinton is not dealt with on this matter, he will do it again, and far worse. If this is not addressed, then this is the start of the end.
Yeah.
Supposing, let's say it was me, and I was made up to look like a Asian person, and I was employed by the government of communist China, and I seduced him. Or I gave him, what didn't Lewinsky do? Lewinsky flashed him her underwear. Now, supposing that I did that and used it to hold over his head for information and give it to my superiors, what's just happened?
You're subverting a government official. High government official.
Mm-hmm. But what's happened? National security has just gone out the window.
Mhm.
Let's take it a little further. Let's say that the president and myself are having an affair.